Hello, and welcome back. My throat, wow, that's... Anyways, today we're going to be doing the continuation of the nervous system. Yay! So in the last related episode, I talked about the different various versions of your nervous system and what they do and don't do. Here are my notes. Wait, are these my notes? These are my notes. So in this one, we're actually going to talk about how to rewire your nervous system. So in the last episode of Dragon Ball Z, we had talked about what type of nervous systems you had and how they work and so on and so forth, and how trauma... Well, we actually haven't even gotten into that yet, so... Today, we're talking about how trauma actually gets stored in the nervous system. I guess we did talk about that a little bit. My bad. So let's just kind of touch base back on it. Using me as an example, I used to have an issue with receiving, and I'm still working on it. It's not like just, poof, I'm done. This is a lot of the times why manifestations don't seem to work overnight. A lot of people are hoping or guessing or wishing that manifestations take overnight. Like it's some kind of crazy magic. Well, yes and no, it's possible. Possibly talk about that in another episode. But, let's say, for instance, I had issues receiving. I know if you've been watching my videos, I've been talking about this a lot. It's been one of my biggest quirks. Core shadows, whatever. So I actually asked the universe, I'm like, alright, now that you showed me this, or I've dug it up, whatever, now that I see this pattern, help me break it. I don't know how. And I didn't know this is what was happening until I had another YouTuber or a guide say, hey, this is you practicing receiving. I'm like, oh, that's what's happening. Okay. But all of a sudden people started being nicer to me. I was like, well, this is weird. Instantly, right there, it's just like, suspicious. People are being nice to me. Red flags are being triggered. I'm just like, alright. Well, it continued. It started off with receiving compliments. Receiving people just opening the door. A sweater I'm wearing has a certain logo. And I've actually been getting a lot of compliments on it. So now I actively... We'll get into that. I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool. And like I said, it kind of evolved into people starting to get the door for me. And I was like, alright, well, that's not, normal. That doesn't happen a lot for me. Normally, I was the doorstop. And then finally, it got to a point where, like, I know I've told this story before on YouTube somewhere. But one day I went into 7-Eleven. And for those who don't know, 7-Eleven sells individual slices of pizza. And typically they run this promotion where you buy 2, you get a soda, it's like $5. So there's one set of 2 pieces of pizza and then one set of 1 piece of pizza. So one single slice. And I asked the guy, I'm like, hey man, how much is that single slice? 2 pieces is $4. So I wanted to see if it was worth it to get 1 piece. He goes, it's $3. I was like, nah, I'm okay. He goes, no, take it. I was like, no, I'm sorry, man, $3 is too much for 1 piece. I'm not gonna... If you're selling 2 for $4, I'm not gonna... He goes, no, take it. Like, take it. It's yours. I'm just like... Okay. Okay. I didn't buy anything, literally. I just walked out with a piece of pizza. I didn't purchase anything else. I just go, okay, thanks. But I actually had, in that moment, that epiphany was... So, I sound like a crazy person because I don't always explain this very well. But I talk to myself in my head. So at that moment, it was one of those moments where it's like a voice triggers, are you seriously about to reject a free piece of pizza? And I'm like, No, just take the pizza. It's like, wow, I almost rejected a free slice of pizza. You know something's wrong in the world when you're rejecting free pizza. It's just like, okay. So, that was the universe, though, helping me attune to this new nervous system. So the way the trauma is passed through the system, and I'm going to use a computer jargon, say we receive a gift or an input signal. It's warmth. It's open. It bypasses our security system and says, oh look, this is good. No danger. But then later I would find out that these gifts held invisible weight or invisible consequences, strings attached, if you would. Whether it be a guilt trip, or instantaneously it turns into a favor later, or it wasn't actually a gift, it was them telling me how to be, like getting me something I don't like, and then getting mad at me because I don't like it, kind of thing, you know? I mean, I could sit here and XYZ left and right. So, my nervous system learned that it's not safe, it's not okay. Because it comes with a undesired outcome. So essentially, it's almost like a Trojan horse virus. You get a download packet. For those who don't know what this is, typically, as the Trojan horse used to be in, I think it was Roman mythology. I wanted to say Greek, but I'm pretty sure it's Roman mythology. They used this thing to put a bunch of men inside, act as a gift, gave it to someone, and all the men jumped out and ambushed the city. So the computer virus does the same thing. You download something you think is good, and then you open the file, and the virus jumps out and infects your computer. It's almost like that. It's like you get the gift, and you see it as a gift script, a gift text, or a superficial, hey, this is nice, good input, and then it bypasses your security system, and then the Trojan horse, the virus, pops out. And then your security system's like, oh no, how did, shit, and then it actually becomes hypervigilant, because now you're letting these things through. And it's like, okay, well, now all gifts are danger, because I keep letting these things through. And now we're gonna just put up extra security and extra firewalls. This actually isn't even following my notes, but whatever. It's nice to be off the beaten path sometimes. So you find out later these gifts have consequences. So, as I had spoken before, sometimes it only has to happen once. Trauma can leave such a heavy imprint that it only truly needs to happen once. Like, say, a car crash. Or, I'm not going to go into super extreme, but you get into a car crash. Well, that bitch has a cookie. You going to share that cookie with me? Sorry, I'm watching seagulls in the parking lot. Car crash. So, if you get into a car crash, that's like super detrimental, tends to be very traumatic, and leaves a bigger imprint. As opposed to repetitious, dosing. So basically, the way this works is the signal, the coding, like I just said, goes through the sympathetic nervous system, activates the flags, and the sympathetic activates the flags of unwanted, hidden consequences as danger. Stating this was safe but turned out it wasn't. Called a moment of rupture. So then if you can't refuse, or undo the gift, or confront without risk, if your system cannot complete fight or flight, okay, so this is how it actually stores in this system. So like I was just saying, you get the initial input, and it passes through the sympathetic nervous system. And it's the initial barrier that says, check, okay, we're good. But then the package gets opened up, and then it hits your your parasympathetic nervous system. Big words. And then at that point, it's too late to back out. You can't halt the process. You can't force close it. And then it's almost like it's like executing software that's only partially there. So again, imagine train tracks. And you're building the train tracks and it goes to a certain point, but then it just stops. And then the train can't move any further. And then you got this whole just cluster of a mess. Now you got this train on these tracks out in the middle of nowhere, full of stuff or people, and now it's just this whole mess. Well, that's the same thing as your system. It's got a packet of information that it's trying to deliver, and now it can't. And it can't complete the signal. It can't complete the process. It can't do what it's meant to do. And since our system is a self-normalizing, self-regulating system, it flags it and has a complete breakdown. It's like, well, I can't finish this. If you can't complete the fight or flight system, it asks what action you can do to keep you safe. So, like a computer, it just, if not, then what else? If I can't do this, what is the next option to solve the equation? For me, it was a lose-lose-lose situation. Accepting meant they owned me. Refusing got me yelled at, and being called ungrateful. Bringing the manipulation to them, of course, made things much worse. And then at that point, after it passes through all the quote-unquote logic gates, and the system cannot be resolved, then that information gets stored in the parasympathetic nervous system. Now it's imprinted. Now it's in my data, and saying, uh-oh, we couldn't stop from downloading the virus, and now it's in our system. And then when that happens, it moves into... Sorry, my voice went from being good to not being so good. Since I'm going off my beaten notes, my notes are no longer making sense. When it fails to drop into freeze collapse, you go numb, feel pressure, heaviness, disassociation, protective shutdown. Okay. So there's also this theory that, I don't know if it's true anymore, but when I was growing up, I used to get told if you have a virus, don't turn off your computer. You had to try to keep it on and try to sort it out while it was on. Because something about turning it off actually let the virus do its job. There's so many times I would get infected with a virus, turn off my computer to try to restart it, and it wouldn't reboot. The whole computer crashed. Sorry guys, this literally came out of nowhere. And then to be a giant hypocrite, speaking about the nervous system, I'm gonna sit here and drink a cup of coffee. Thus jacking up my nervous system. So, as of this point, lucky for us, our system isn't that fragile. If we get a bad line of text or a bad code or a virus, it doesn't completely corrupt our system and shuts us down. It just shuts down like a part of us. For instance, the next part was, as of that point, you drop into freeze or collapse. You go emotionally numb, feel pressure, heaviness, and disassociation. That's your nervous system getting overloaded. As of that point, that is exactly what happened to me. I would sit there, after the yelling, after the conversation, after the whatever, I would go emotionally numb. And I would begrudgingly walk back to my bedroom with this gift that I didn't want, I didn't hate, and is now just a constant reminder of whatever situation is going on. But as of that point, I've tried everything. I've tried giving it back. I tried saying I didn't want it, whatever. Got yelled at. My nervous system exploded. I'm now, like, completely drained. I don't care anymore. I would rather just shut down and be defeated. It doesn't matter. My system lost and learned that it's not safe, because there was no way to resolve it. So it had to learn to cope instead. But in that shutdown phase, that's when it stores the information, because it couldn't resolve it. So the last logic gate, the last firewall, it breaks through because your system shut down. Your nervous system could no longer attempt to filter it. As of that point, the nervous system shuts down and accepts whatever coding and imprint made it to it. And now, your nervous system associates gifts with threats, obligation, loss of safety. The memory literally gets stored as a automatic or atomic state, sensation, and emotional reflex. For instance, excuse me, you know, there are those who do, what do you call it? Instinctive reflex, I don't know what you call it, but, like, you get scared, or you watch too many scary games, or maybe you get jumped once, or something bad happens to you physically. Say, for instance, one day, I scared my older sister. We had this coffee table, and even though we had a couch, she was leaning up against the coffee table. And I decided to lean over the coffee table and scare her. Like, I literally stuck my face in her face. I go, blah, and she's swat! And I just stop. I'm like, and she literally covers her mouth and just starts laughing. I'm like, Steph, you just slapped the crap out of me. She's like, well, don't scare me. That's the example of automatic nervous system. The fight or flight symbol and symptom. So that system gets stored in your system. That information gets stored in your system. So even after I no longer live with this family, because, you know, at some point I had to move out, the damage was done. Because it was a repeated pattern, it became normal. So anytime someone genuinely tried to help me out, it flagged the system and said, nope, no help. I can't. Fuck you. No. Trauma forms when new threatening information arrives after a state of safety, and the nervous system cannot resolve the conflict through action. Now let's talk about how to actually rewire the nervous system. As I had said before, kind of hinted at the beginning of the video, microdosing. Microdosing is essentially, in my opinion, the fastest way. Because it's basically the same thing that caused the issue in the first place. So again, getting all kind of weird things going on. So like I was saying time and time again, living with that family was the repetitious trauma. So it wasn't like, oh, my stepmom bought me a gift once and said, oh, haha. No, it was a lifetime of, you owe me. I did this for you, you owe me. I helped you out, you owe me. You know, that kind of mentality. It wasn't just once, it was years, quite literally years. Now, unfortunately, it may take just as long. I'm not going to tell you how long it takes to rewire your nervous system, because the biggest part is rest on top of that. So, instead of poisoning myself with negativity, I'm going to poison myself with positivity. Like I said, now I allow myself to wear the sweater that gets me compliments. Instead of shying away from it and saying, oh, I don't want to wear this because it makes me stand out. Now I wear it and say, okay, I'm going to put on this sweater, and if I get a compliment, that's okay. I don't need compliments. I'm not doing it for validation. I'm just simply allowing myself to receive. If somebody wants to compliment me, okay, I will wear the sweater. Someone wants to say something nice, I will let them. Instead of wearing just a plain black hoodie, kind of blending into the background. So if the universe doesn't do that for you, like I said, that guy just give me a piece of pizza, do it for yourself. Do yourself little acts allowing yourself to receive. Like, I don't typically buy myself nice stuff. I always used to think I break it, which, well, I used to, but... Or XYZ. I could sit here and say, I used to have issues. Basically, I wouldn't give myself gifts. I would go, sometimes I'd even go out of the way self-sabotage, but as I fixed that, it got to the point, now it's like, okay, maybe I've been having a rough week, I've been doing good, and it doesn't even have to be a reward system. I don't mean to put it as a reward yourself. It's just, reward yourself because you're inherently worthy. So let's say, whether or not I was gonna say, I've been working hard, so I deserve a piece of cake. But I'm trying to shift that, I'm sorry. So, let's say, just in general, I'm trying to microdose myself, and today, I just felt like giving myself an extra piece of cake. At Walmart, I noticed they have, like, individual pieces of cake, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to allow myself to get myself this piece of cake and enjoy it. Whether or not it's in the budget, whether or not it's healthy, whether or not I really need this cake. Right now, I feel like I want that cake. So, I'm going to allow myself to receive the cake. Not big, little baby microdoses, micro baby steps. Micro baby steps. Little baby steps. Because again, it's like, sometimes if it's too much, your nervous system will freak out. And it'll overload, and it will reject the gift. For instance, anyone tries to hand me money. I don't know why. I mean, I guess I do, but... It used to be at a point where it's like, oh, here's... Like, for instance, just gotta ask yourself, how would you react, say, for instance, if someone brought me $1,000 right now? How would you react? My first instinct would be like, no. I can't take this, that's crazy. You're like, dog, someone's offering you a free $1,000, why wouldn't you take that? So, baby steps, microdosing, doing little things here and there. It doesn't have to be specifically receiving. It's just that's one of my examples. That's one of my core wounds. So, whatever you identify your issue is, microdose. That's one option. There we go, here's the other one. There are other things like regulation before reflection. For instance, the other day, a guy in the parking lot offered to help me move a box out of my trunk. I was a little rude in my rejection. Sometime after I settled down and had some food and watched TV, I was relaxed and I reflected on that moment and questioned why I even acted that way. Sometimes the easiest way or the best way, I say that like I know what I'm talking about, is reflection too. Microdosing you can do subconsciously, like I said. I asked the universe to help me receive, and I didn't even realize I was doing it until that piece of pizza thing. And I'm just like, oh, this is the universe trying to get me to receive. So you can do that subconsciously without even knowing it. But then there's also what they say, basic meditation, reflection, taking time out of your day to be like, okay, for instance, I just had that interaction. I had a guy literally just come up and offer me help. But my nervous system flagged it and said, hey, this is not safe. And I'm like, okay, why? Interesting, why? And then that actually causes you to do the deep reflection and be like, alright, Well, what does that say about my nervous system? I felt like I was in danger. Why was I in danger? And you can just keep going down the tree. That was literally all the notes I wrote for that. So, self-reflection. So once again, basically, anything that pushes you from a state of calm is, I guess, a trigger, almost. So again, I could be up at Walmart, I'm just fine, and maybe, I don't know, where someone rams their cart into me. I have a reaction. Well, the only way to figure it out is to self-reflect and be like, well, why? Why? Why did I flip out? Plain and simple. Movement. Movement, as spoken in the last video or in a video, helps by completing releasing of energy. Stored up like pent-up emotions. It can help return you to a regulated, safe state without overwhelm. For instance, the way this can work is, say, something having to do with my root chakra. Although, root chakra does typically have to do with grounding, so it's an iffy. But you should be able to do it with any energy. Basically, because the energy is literally stored in your nervous system. I know this may not make sense and it sounds kind of quirky and silly, but it's like one of those snow globes. You get a snow globe, and you've got all the snow on the bottom, stagnant, not moving, and then you take the snow globe and you're like, "Arr, arr." That's how I used to shake it as a kid. I'd like take the whole thing and shake my whole body, just like. So, you take it, and you shake it, and then all that energy, all that snow is moving around. Same thing with your body. The energy is, the trauma is stagnant and stored energy in your body. It's like cleaning out the cobwebs. The cobwebs ain't going anywhere until you shift something, you move something. So sometimes as simple as getting up and moving can help you release trauma, release energy. Working out. I hate saying that because I'm such a clocking myself on that. I need to work out more. So, getting movement. People don't understand. It's quite helpful. That's why you feel good after working out or yoga or dancing. I mean, walking, anything. Moving the body is what it's meant to do. It's just naturally made for movement. So, allowing it to do itself, to do its thing, just is naturally good for it. So how do you expect for this stagnant energy to move if you don't move? In the words of a famous lemur, I like to move it, move it. She likes to move it. Bow, 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 down, down, down. Anyways. Here's another one that I don't want to recommend, because I like the idea, but it can be used unethically. Co-regulation. Being around someone who is calm and consistent and not demanding. For instance, your body just naturally knows. Say, you're around someone who's hyped up on coffee, and they're like, "Nyeh." You can feel that. You can feel if someone's jazzed up or going crazy or brimming with energy. So if you are... Let's use this example again. There's always that example of the two tuning forks. Well, I guess a tuning fork is not a good example. What was the example that I saw? Basically, based off the company you keep, you resonate with it. So if you, for instance, my dad, his nervous system was not regulated at all. I couldn't even have a conversation about anything. If it opposed his views at all, he instantly flew off the handle. And because of that, I didn't feel safe. So my nervous system got messed up because his nervous system was messed up. I didn't feel like I could talk. I didn't feel like I could be open. But if you're around someone who you're able to talk to, who you just feel like, I don't know, I had a phrase and then it disappeared. But it's basically just one of those people who you can just be yourself around, who you can tell they're calm and relaxed. Your nervous system attunes to that as well. So essentially, if you find friends or a partner whose nervous system is regulated, you can essentially regulate yourself. Now, I say I don't like this part because people have been doing it to me. Whenever I stream on Twitch, those who have an unhealed, regulated nervous system come into my stream feeling me all regulated and totally chillin', and I'll notice by the end of the stream I'm fucking pissed. And nothing even has to happen. It's just because I know certain people are coming in and essentially taking energy, trying to regulate their own nervous system off of mine. So I don't like that option. It's not my favorite. Then there's predictability. I also don't like this option, and I'll explain afterwards. But essentially, creating your own safety. Developing a routine. Going to the same place every day. Say, for instance, creating a safe space. I used to have cafes I loved. There were certain cafes I would go to all the time, same day, same time. In fact, as you've noticed, that is actually a regular pattern in most people, especially old people. You see them tend to develop a routine of doing the same thing in the same place at the same times. It's because it's safe and it's comforting to them. Their nervous system is regulating through this. By having something that's consistent, even if the rest of your world is inconsistent and chaotic, having this one anchor or multiple anchors helps your nervous system learn safety, even if it's false, in a sense. So, for instance, I say that a lot. I used to have the same routine, but my issue is I developed too much safety in that. Because then I became codependent. I became codependent on the comfort zone. Because then I would never leave or do anything outside of it. So then my nervous system, it kind of works to kind of get you outside of the box in the beginning. But the issue for me was then I developed a new box and said, okay, well, I'm only safe inside of this comfort zone. My nervous system says I'm only safe here. It's not safe. So anytime my routine would break down, and so would my nervous system. So I guess it can be used in a way to microdose. And I'm not going to sit here and say this one thing works above all else. In fact, merging these things together works better. Meditating. Breathing. Sorry, my voice seems to be giving out on me. I don't know why. So I'll try to wrap this up quick. But meditation. Breathing. I've said it time and time again in my videos. You can find this all over the place. It's nothing new. But breathing is the one thing your conscious and your subconscious mind does. I can choose to breathe, or I can forget about it and my body automatically breathes. Well, since it's the one thing both of your conscious and conscious minds can do, it helps, synchronize them together. I can't explain the physics, but the fact of two things resonating together is what causes it to kind of, solidify. So it puts you in this special state where you're more receptive, you're more open, and it's almost like the flow state is what they call it. And that helps you regulate your nervous system by returning back to point zero. It's like basically you run. You run. You go and do a marathon. Well, what would happen if you tried to get up and start that marathon again? You'd collapse. So you gotta get up, take that minute, sit down and rest. Let your mind go quiet, let your body go quiet, drink some water, you rest. And then you can get back up and pick back up. So in that current moment, you're creating a space of safety. That's why it works. You're telling your body in this current moment, I am okay. I am safe. I'm breathing. I am still. Life is good. Even if it's just for a minute. The last one, I've kind of already done that. It says, and finally, meaningful agency. Basically, small choices. It kind of falls along the line of microdosing and giving gifts to yourself and stuff like that. Small choices you can fully control. When you want, you eat. When you rest, you say no. It gives you a sense of control. I buy myself gifts and receive no downfall. So it's kind of the same thing as microdosing. It's just, well, okay, then I'm going to tell you a method that I would not recommend at all. Burnout. This one is self-harmful, and I didn't realize I was doing it. But the burnout method. I found out, kind of like an electrical conductor, or whatever. I don't remember where I heard this physics or this science behind it, but sometimes, if you overload somebody's system, like say superpowers, let's think of it this way. Say I have the ability to conduct electricity. I can shoot electricity out my fingers. However, I can only generate enough to tickle someone. Kind of like the same thing as if you were to shock someone with a carpet. You know, you rub your feet and the static electricity and you shock someone. Well, that's all the power I can produce. Now, there's a method where I overload my system by inducing or introducing more electricity than I can handle. The problem is, it's a very dangerous game. Because if you do that, there's a chance you could overload your system and destroy it. However, in the off chance you don't overload your system and destroy it, the capacity increases. Because it's like breaking a limb and then getting used to not having it. And then it heals, but you're better because you learned how to function with just one limb. So it's like you learned how to function on this new state of exhaustion. So now I am able to get to a higher level of exhaustion. I wouldn't recommend it, because like I said, it's not fun. I was constantly crashing and destroying my nervous system and then repairing it. However, that was the fastest method I've ever seen. Why? Well, like I said, it was extreme burnout. I would drive myself into a wall of extreme burnout. It's basically the anime theory. You get your superhero driven back into a corner, back into a wall, and that's when their power flourishes and they become strong and break their limits. So I would force myself, overload, and break my limits. I think there's a healthier way to do it now. But yeah, I don't recommend it. There's a healthier way to do it, now that I think about it. In fact, I may even come up with a healthy way to do it. Because then I was doing it without rest. Rest is necessary. Rest is the period that allows your body to feel safe. So, for instance, maybe I code. Let's say I code. And every word I type, I get paid for. So I equate it to, oh look, I'm getting money, I'm safe. So I'm typing and typing and typing and typing. And then finally my body's like, well, I need rest. And it's like, no, I'm not going to let you rest because I'm only safe when I'm typing. So if you're constantly working on yourself, constantly causing burnout and constantly doing nervous system work, it needs rest. Or else it won't ever register the safety at all. Because the nervous system is meant to rest, and if you're not allowing it to do what it's supposed to do, it will not feel safe. So the biggest thing out of all of this, if you're doing nervous system work, rest is the most important part. Because that is the gaps when the software releases and relaxes and says, okay, this is the point where I'm going to learn to integrate what I've learned. But if that process continues to get interrupted, it's just making things worse. So, I think that's about it. I can't believe I've actually been talking about it for 41 minutes, so hopefully there was something useful in this lesson. I'm going to Walmart. I've been sitting in Walmart's parking lot for a while now. So, yeah, that's it. Cool. Y'all have a great day.